Morning, everybody, and welcome to ESO Daily. I'm your host, Mr. Craven. All right, so I'm on the PTS this morning. As you guys can see, I still have my watermarks. Didn't get to submit that ticket yesterday. I'm telling you. All right, so I'm on PTS, and one of the things I want to kind of go over, and I said I was going to go over this week, is determining penetration. What we're going to need based on sets. And I have a lot to do, but we're just going to generalize and kind of go over trait choices, selection, munduses, penetration sets, so on and so forth, and kind of get a ballpark figure what we're taking a look at. Now, I got my calculator down here, so there's a couple of things we're going to rule out, and we're going to anticipate depending on scenarios, whether or not we're in trial or four-man or so on and so forth. So, first thing I want to go ahead and do right now is take a look at my handy dandy calculator. All right. So one of the things that we're going to, and that's why I got this displayed. One thing we're going to take a look at is the 18,200 value, right? It's kind of our target area, what we need to be without trying to exceed and trying to get as close. If we're slightly over or slightly under, it's ideal, but we want to try to hit to the 18.2 as much as possible. All right, so keep that in mind, that number right there. So, morning Mustang. So, first thing I'm going to do is take a look at the skills. We're going to do deducted values that we can anticipate in scenarios. So, Pierce armor. Tanks usually use this for taunt. We want to apply the major fracture, the major breach, right? So, that's going to be a deducted value regardless. So that 5,280 is going to come off the top, right? Up. So we're going to deduct it. Okay. Okay, that brings us down to 12,920. Kind of cool. Now, I don't have my bars set up, so keep in mind that my bars aren't set up here. Another one we want to take into consideration for the deduction is the Crushers enchantment. Now, Crushers is depending on if they're going to be using infused or not. Now, if they don't, it's like 1,600. So I always aim for low ball, and you can get it up to like over 2,000. So I always kind of go for the low ball. So we'll just kind of deduct the 16, right, on the average. Right, so that brings us down to 11,320. Fred, what's up, brother? I hope you're having a good day. So, and I'm glad you're up this morning, Mustang. It's good to see you in the morning. So we have 11,320. Now we're going to go ahead. We'll be taking a look at the minor breach, which is 1320. Now, this is going to be based on if you're going to be using Sunderflame, which I don't really... I'm kind of whatever about that. I wish it would go in Night Mothers, not Sunderflame. But if you have a Stamplar, that's why I'm on my Stamplar, we can deduct this. Or if you're using poisons, you can get a minor fracture as well. So just keep that in mind. But regardless, it's going to be a 1320, right? Okay, I got an automated call. So we're going to deduct that 1320, kind of important. Okay, that brings us down to an even 10,000. Now, if we're in a trial scenario, we would be also taking a look at the Roar of Alkosh, because it'll throw another deduction for 3,010, right? That's if we're in trial scenario. Four-man, you're not always guaranteed that. That's why I always like my Mundus to be kind of like optional, depending on four-man, and depending on trial scenarios, because then I can just switch out the lover for the warrior, so on and so forth. But we're going to deduct this as if we were going in 12-man. So 3,010. Okay. So we're going to take away the 3,010. Okay, that brings us down to 6,990 that we have to make up between our Mundus, our traits, and our armor. So around 7,000. Around 7,000, we got to make up that value to get our max. I haven't yet to sleep yet for some reason. Oh my gosh, no, you have insomnia. Oh, that sucks. That sucks. So, 7,000. Now we're going to take a look at a couple sets here. So we're going to take a look at Spriggans. Spriggans is a really great set. I love Spriggans, right? This set is going to do 3,370 deduction. Now, you also have the option of, I wanted to say it was in here, but maybe I didn't pick it up yet. Let's just go into the inventory and let's go to supplies. I know I grabbed the box. Okay, so we're going to grab a Two-Fanged Serpent set. Okay, now, Two-Fang's really, really great set as well, especially if you're going to keep it static or you can keep the rotation up high enough and you anticipate the drop off. But we're looking at 830, right? Stacking for 3 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. I don't like the build up in the set, to be honest with you. That's why I always go Spriggans. Some people like it. It does have that nice critical value. So it is a really good set. I just prefer Spriggans. That's why, because when we take a look at the 8, now keep this in mind, we'll just keep that up to about 7K, just in the back of our head. So if we look at the 830 times 5, we're getting a maximum of 4,150. That's really nice, right? Because then we don't have to rely on, like, the sharpened trait, okay? So I've already switched the weapon set. So the sharpened value in a total accumulative, even if you run the dual wield, you'd have to have 2 sharpened, would be 2,752. So let's hypothetically say we're going to run sharpen, hypothetically speaking. And because that's the whole idea, keep it, you know, whatever. So let's say we use the sharpen trait, right? So we have the 6,990. That's our roundabout. We're going to deduct that sharpen value, and that's at gold level. So 2,752. I hate that little odd number being there. I mean, I know it's even, but it drives me nuts. So that puts us at 4,238. Now, if we use the Spriggan set, and we're not using it, now see, this is a really good idea here, because now we're at an option. We can use the Two-Fang and maybe put like 1 or 2 points into our CP, right? We can do that. Or you can use the Spriggans, right? And then you can get that 3,003. So let's say we were using this, 3,370. So we're going to deduct that. Okay, that leaves us at 868. That would have to be allocated into the CP system. What about Crags or Infallible Darkness? They have pen. Yeah, that's true too, Scott. Yeah, Crags you can use, and then you just deduct. Same idea. I'm just going over deduction. But yeah, right, exactly. So if you use those, you just would deduct the value. So that's kind of like, you know, the determining factors of saying, okay, what sets, how we're going. This is not set in stone. It's just giving you kind of an idea of how you align your CP points with these upcoming changes, being the fact that we're probably not going to see Night Mothers, and we're probably not going to see Sunderflame used if it stays the same. It's a hypothetical situation, to say the least. So that looks really good in the CP allegation, right? Because now we don't need, if we're using Sharpen, we don't need the Lover, potentially. 4-mans, you probably still would. So, but that gives us a flexible room to switch Mundus based on encounter. So I can still use, if I'm running a crit set and I have enough critical, but I don't with this configuration, I'd have to use the Thief with this build config. Why? My crit value is shit. So, 868 into that. So when we go down into the CP points, now all I have to do is literally come over here anticipate and put, see, 868, we only get 811. I would take the acceptable loss of 9. And that would be ideal towards cap or slightly over in an ideal situation. Right? Just the way it is. That would be an ideal. And now, what it does is I have no mundus. Right? So let's say I was running Spriggans with Hundings. Right? Because I think my shit is like whacked. Like, yeah, look at my crit value. My crit value is shit with this build. So with this build, I'd have to take the Thief. Right? I would have to. I'd have to take that Thief. And that would throw me up towards my 50 somethings. 40 biting jabs. I still got to apply the savagery. So let's do that really quick. So do I have my jabs? Yeah. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. Get that savagery buff. Now we're at 50. All right. So we're at 50 with a configuration like this. If you use Two Fang, you'll get it up to about 52, 53, something like that. So, and I'm red guard, so that makes a difference as well. But if I was running a hunting set, let's say I use Spriggans and Huntings, right? It's a pretty good set that I could use that versus using something like the Vicious Ophidian. Because keep in mind, I'm not getting a stat when I get the Minor Slayer. You know, it's a sacrifice. But you get that 5%, which scales, which is nice. But you see, I have one weapon. I have 2 critical values. So actually, that makes no sense anyways. Scrap what I said just now. So that would give me the whatever, but I just lose out on the stamina. So that's enough. But yeah, so we have the critical value. If I wanted to go with precise, I couldn't. I could go daggers. Now, I could go daggers instead of axes. So that would be the offset. So if I didn't want to go with the axes, I could go with that. But the bow, critical percentage value is estimated into the passives. So that's going to be kind of my highest point without taking whatever. But let's say my critical value is up higher. Oh, my CP points isn't allocated enough. Holy shit. Never mind. We'll get that boost anyways. So let me redo that. Let me do this really quick. So we're going to put in base. See, sometimes things just bypass me. We'll go up to about 12. We'll take this up to 1208 as well. Okay. Thaumaturge. Really want to take advantage of this. We're going to go up to about 16 for now. We'll probably go up to about 19. Okay. Come over here. Remember, light attacks are going to do a ton more damage. I think about 16 is what I was looking at or something like that. Maybe that would be good. I want to keep this around 18 as much as possible as well. Probably go about 19. Now I can scale that up a little bit more. I really want to bank on my Thaumaturge a lot if I'm running a configuration like this. We should be able to get about 13, maybe 14. There we go. Looks good. That looks good. Yeah, now we're at that 52. Apply the major savagery. We're good. Okay, so we're at 52. That's good. That's actually, this is a kind of a really good setup right here. This is a really positive setup. The Spriggans don't have the build up. Critical value looks good. Everything looks really good. I kind of like this type of setup because then I can back bar proc, you know, this, and keep that on the back end, on the dual wield side. So really, really nice with the configuration. Now, if I wasn't using a penetration set, hypothetically speaking, right? So I wouldn't be, I kind of have a limited whatever. So say if I'm not using a penetration set, I would still like, I don't even know what I would grab. Let's say I use hulking draugrs for some reason. Hypothetically. Not saying I would. Please, whatever. So let's say I use the hulking draugr set. Right? This is going to be my replacement set. I also need the weapons. So Spriggans and Lover is next patch meta. No, I'm not saying. So it's time to put everything into Ped and Blue Cat, CP and Mystic. I made a Magplar. Oh, cool. You made a Magplar. Magplars are pretty tough. They annoy the shit out of me, to be honest with you. But let's hypothetically say I'm going to be using the hulking draugr set. Right? For some whatever reason. So I'm going to put that in there. We'll keep the Ophidian. Okay. And let's say I go in. Right. I need the weapons. So I need that bow. And I also need the axe. Alright. And then we'll change the trait on that as well. And lift it up. So let's go with that. And let's put on that nice hulking draugr. So we keep that static. That'll be our static value. Now, I'm going to go to my calculator here. Okay? So this is a big whatever when we're talking about making up the value. Okay. So, remember,
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for the subscribing. Welcome to ESO Daily. So, we have 6,990, right? Now, we don't have that pen. This is what's going to have to be made up, right? That value has to be made up. So, I'm running the thief, but guess what I'm forced to use now? Now, first off, I'm going to go ahead and get this transmuted. Okay. So we're going to transmute this. Oh, look, I'm out of transmutation crystals. What shall I ever do? Oh, I know. I know what I'll do. Just fill up again. Ah. That sucks. Hold on, I gotta delete something. What do I want to delete? So much to test, so much to test. I'll destroy it. And I'll destroy this. Okay. Anyways, we got another 50. So we got that sharpen, that sharpen. Gonna hit this. Make that sharpen. Okay. We're going to come over up to my crafting stations. We'll improve it. Okay. Get that all worked out. Stop. Just. Okay. So, 6,990, remember, we got to make up. So how bad is the nerf? It's not really bad. It just junks the sets. That's all it does. It's like, that's why I'm kind of going over this. It's kind of like saying, okay, well, now I'm going to need a certain amount. You don't have to use sharpen. Like, if I'm going to show you how you can even use the Nernhone, right, in this video. So we'll be covering that. So, 6,990 is the value we have to make up. Now we have the sharpen trait. Okay. So we're going to deduct that from 2,752. Right? So that's 4,238. Now, if I want to maintain the thief, right? Because let's say my critical value, I can't afford to change it, right? I'm not using enough into my critical value. I can offset this value into the CP points. So 4,238 is now what I need in my CP system. So now I go into the CP system and we're going to what? Reallocate our points, right? So we're going to drop some of our base down to about that 1208, because keep in mind, we need that value now. We have to make it up. We're going to bring this down to 18, roughly. Okay. And we want to keep 75 points into this. So I don't ever really want to touch this value. So probably down to about, I want to say about 16 is where I need to be to have enough points. Might have to drop that down to 11. Okay, we're slightly short. We're going to drop that down just a smidge. Because remember, the max stamina is going to be an added value to the DPS, where pen was our other value. Now see, 4,210, 1 point left over. We need 4,238. Add that, we're slightly over. But look, now we made up the value. Okay? So now the value's made up for using a set like Hulking Draugrs. So we've now covered the distance, right? So that's how you have to determine. Robert, morning. That's how you have to determine how much you have to make up the value. So can you use a set like Hulking Draugrs? Absolutely. The thing about it is, though, you have to make up that value somewhere. That's what I'm saying. Because I'm pigeonholed with this configuration to keep my critical value at a certain percentage, right? So if I'm using the Thief Mundus, right, then all of a sudden I have to make it up either through Sharpen Trait or I have to make it up somewhere else. Now, keep in mind, one of the nice things about the Spriggans, the Two-Fang set, is it gives a critical value, right? So let's say I use daggers and I use the Two-Fang Serpent set, which I probably don't have enough room in my bags to grab it. Actually, I should be able to slot this. So we're going to put on that Two-Fang. All right. Did I destroy the weapons, though? I wonder if I destroyed the weapons. I hope I didn't. I probably did. And I did. Sucks. Oh, no, I didn't. Two-Fang Serpent. Oh, weapons. Oh, this sucks. Okay, I don't need that. We're going to destroy that. All right. So I'm going to grab, once again, I'm going to grab the bow. I'm going to grab the axe. Once again. So we're going to put on that bow. And now we're going to throw on that axe. All right. So now we're getting an additional critical value. Now I could probably go with, like, now I can switch this off to keeping the precise value, because now I know I'm going to get a little bit more, and that'll allow me to switch out my Mundus accordingly. So let's say I wanted to, the precise value, now see, is 6,000 and 3,000. So I need to make up this value of 3,000. So when we take a look, we're well over, actually. We're still way over. So I'll probably end up transmuting. Well, no, because we want to change our Mundus. So we're going to change our Mundus now, right? We're going to use the Lover. Now, we're going to change it. We don't want the Thief. Thief's out the window. All right. So that's now down to 51. You see, we had 52. Now we have 51. Right? All right. Let me see if there's anything I can get rid of again. Yet again. I don't know if that counts towards my bag. It does. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go into supplies. Going to go into transmutation. Okay. So now we're going to go ahead and grab, transmute this to precise. So now we don't want the thief, right? We don't need it. Way over. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to take this lovely baby here and we're going to make it precise. So now we have 35. We'll go it out, whatever. That'll give us a 7,000 value. There's our 7,000 value on a critical. I kind of don't know how I feel about the new number. It's cool, I guess. Come on. Okay. So, improve. All right. All right. So, back to the handy dandy calculator. Okay, we're going to go back to that number, that 6,990. That's the magic number for us, right? But we got to keep in mind what Two Fang's going to do. Okay, so Two Fang, remember, 840 5 times. So we're going to have 840 times 5. That's going to give us 4,200. Okay? 4,200. Deduct the 4,200. That's 2,000. Hey, David, welcome back. That's 2,790. Now, what we do, we have a problem. Because guess what? The lever is giving us way too much. Way too much. So now, what's that tell us? We're going to use the warrior. Right? Makes sense? Why? Because now we're over-penetrated. We don't want to over-penetrate. So now, we're going to take that warrior instead, so we don't over-penetrate the value. We're going to come over into the calculator. We have to make up 2,790 now into the CP system. So we're going to go back into the champion points. We're going to bring this down to about 2,700. That's an acceptable loss. 25 points left to allocate. We can increase the base. I don't think that's enough points. It's not. Well, yeah, for 13 it will be. Slightly. Slightly. Ugh. That becomes the question. I would probably take this down to about 18 given. And now I have 2 points left to allocate. I'd probably take the acceptable loss over here, given the fact that anything else could drop off. But you'd have 2 points. That's kind of ideal where you want to be. But I could probably put... I was under anyways with that point. Anyways, 16.41, and I can put 1 point in. So now we covered the distance, right? That's what we're doing right here. So now we're at, you know, a very, very good situation with our critical value, keeping everything, you know, kind of in line. We want to maintain. So now we're at that 52 again. You see how that worked? We're still at that 52. Why are we at that 52? Because we changed the weapon trait due to the parameters, changed the Mundus accordingly, and we're changing the CP allegation to our specification, right? That's how we're doing it with the offsetted builds. Morning, Joshua. I hope you're doing good, brother. So there's flexibility, right, between the traits, the CP system, and the gear and Mundus. So all of these things come together. But you have to remember that the magic number that you need to remember to make up for the stam is 6,990, right? That's how much you have to make up between gear, Mundus, and traits in CP. That is how you have to, if you don't want to go over it, but you want to anticipate it. Now, nice thing about putting this into situational scenarios is given the fact that I've taken Alkosh into consideration. Now keep that in mind. I've already taken Alkosh. So for a trial scenario, the warrior in this configuration is going to work out in better scenario. But in a 4-man, I wouldn't want to take that. I would take the loss and the slight loss to improve overall DPS in 4 to take the lover. Right? Even taking into consideration, I have pen in both applications. Why? Because I'm missing out on that 3,000 and something. But now it becomes the question now this becomes the real question, since I'm now completely over, would I roll all divines? This is where I like to go infused. Because now we know that my pen is like 4,000. When I only need 3,000 and something, right? I only need X amount of penetration from that Mundus. So that becomes controlled. That becomes a controlled situation that I can control by changing the 3 primary traits on the biggest pieces. So now when I come up here, I don't need that 4,000, right? I don't need that much. So by having an offsetted pieces, now I can come in, I can, oh, sorry. Wrong one. I need to come down here. Now I can come over to the transmutation station, transmute my gear. That's going to be my head, right? My chest. Sorry, the dog. And my legs. All right. Now, when we take a look now into the Mundus, now we're down to 3, 4. So we've sliced down that margin and increased what? Our maximum pull for scaling. I love these math videos so much. Thank you. So that is controlled. We have a controlled variable, right? Why? Because we can adjust the trait value to maximize the potential without exceeding. So that becomes controlled. We can control it. So that's what I always do. I love to have an extra chest, a divine and an infused. Why? Because I can close in the margin with the controlled variable, right? Based on trait. That's very, 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 very important. And that's the one thing that we always want to take a look at. So if we add the 6,990 and we're going to take into effect that Alkosh isn't there, right? That's 3,010 now we have to make up, right? So we're going to add the 3,010 because we're in a 4-man. And if we're in a 4-man, we have to have 10,000 penetration, right? Now it has to be a 10,000 pen versus 6,990 towards a 12-man. So that's 10,000 penetration. Well, we know that we're getting to 4,280 from the two-fang. So we're going to deduct that. Right? Now we're at 5,720. Now we take a look into our adjusted lover, 3,495. That's 2,225 we have to have in CP. See, now we're at 28. So we have slightly over. Slightly. So is it acceptable? It could be. But we can adjust that. We can shave it. 2002. $85, that's acceptable. I'll keep that there. Can probably get about 20. Slightly under. And then you can kind of adjust some of this. So 19, I don't think I'll be able to. That has the same diminishing value. I like to put in to base if I can. No. Diminishing value is way too excessive. So 7 points. I would say put this up to about 19. Take the 4 points. And now we can get an 1839 on our weapon. So now we can optimize that build. It's going to be proc set central next patch. Mustang, I think they will, since they have been compensating for not having 2 5-piece and a monster like stamina. Right. Magicka is going to be really looking pretty with these changes. Anything will. So that's taken into consideration. So all I'm doing, and like I said, this isn't an optimal build. I don't want people to think that this is optimized per se. All I'm doing is showing you guys, you know, basically like if I wanted, you know, to maintain like the Vicious Ophidian, I would put this at Vicious Ophidian and make this Vicious Ophidian and then switch this out for the Two Fang, you know, to optimize. But I'm not doing that. I'm just showing you guys how to calculate your penetration for stand players. Because there's a lot of things to take in consideration how penetration is. And if you have a 4-man, remember, if we have a 4-man, we are looking at that 6,990 being our magic number. But if we, I mean a 12-man. If we're at a 12-man, that's our magic number. But if we're not, and we have no Alkosh proc, right? Then we have a 10,000 magic number between everything. So, because, you know, 10,000 made up. Has to be made up with in a 4-man. 12-man, 6,990. Okay? Anyone know, is Stamsork getting any love this patch? No adjustments as far as Stamsork. Like, I wish they would throw a class-based ability in there, give it a little TLC, but it's still going to perform really well, given the fact that the passives are still really optimal for Stamsork. Stamsork just really thrive in group settings. You know, I still kill everything in a 4-man, too. One of the bound armor morphs is becoming stand-based. Right, it's a proc. That is true. That is true. So I do take that back. The bound ages or bound armament is becoming, the stand morph of it is basically a click and applied. So you don't have to have a double barred now. So that is a boon to the Stamsork. And Robert, some people don't like the small chance to proc, so the build is hard for stats. Yeah, to each your own. I'm happy bound is no longer going to have to be double barred. I'm very happy about that, actually, especially for Sork tanks. Sork tanks is going to be really, really good. So yeah, there's a lot of things that, like, you guys can see my watermarks still. I wish they'd just get rid of this shit. But that's going to be the big numbers, because we didn't have to, when we had Night Mothers and we had Sunder Flame, we wasn't depending on some of the traits and whatever. The one thing I only wish they would do is bump up Sharpen to get the equivalent value of Mace's penetration, to have an indifferent value. That's the only thing I wish they'd do. That's it. If they would do that, that would give a lot more leadway between build configs and people could use Maces. But, hey, whatever. I'll be still rolling Maces in PvP, but PvE, there's back bar swap, there's a loss. So we have to look at hard numbers when it comes to penetration, because we don't want a penetration on a back bar and be short on the front bar. Not for stats, bow, or two-hand user, though, Scott. Right. You know. Yeah, that's, you know, it is flexible. So penetration along with build, desired build is flexible. Like I was showing and I was kind of demonstrating in this video, there's a lot of ways to make up the values, right? Based on what we're gaining versus what we're losing. So flexibility in builds, a lot of flexibility. The question of it is how do you make up these values? It's through CP, Mundus, and gear, and traits. So it becomes, very whatever. So hopefully this helps, and I really hope this helps people. A lot of configuration change. Like I said, this isn't an optimal setup, so I don't want people thinking it is. Just going over the numbers for your penetration, how to acquire that. That's all I'm saying. No, I'm talking about the bound armor morph. Yeah, oh yeah. The bound armor morph is totally, for the stamina. That's one thing I love because that also affects your light and heavy attacks. And with these changes, that's going to be huge for Stamsork. Right. Thank God for the 2H changes. Finally, I can use 2-piece setup without dual wield. Yeah, I was still using a 2H in certain configurations in PvE. But I feel like a lot of people get out of the whole, the meta state of mind and understand that this game is not